Here's why I'm pissed off that the NFL had to even issue a statement about it. Because celebrations usually don't warrant that. They got a right to support who the hell they want without the league needing to send in a response. I didn't see a response from the UFC. You know why? Because Dana White wouldn't entertain it. He's going to support who he's going to support. He's not going to apologize for it, as most American citizens should feel free to do. And why am I ticked off? Because it was emblematic of the climate that we've been living in for years now, which is why I believe Donald Trump was really elected.
So Stephen A. Smith is really an interesting character because he claims he's not a Trump supporter, but he sounds exactly like one, right? He spent the entire election cycle, it felt like, defending Trump and the rational case for voting for him constantly, but then would always say, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Trump supporter. So a lot of people have long speculated that he actually is a Trump supporter. He just doesn't want to say it publicly. I don't even necessarily think it's that. I think it's more so that he doesn't want to admit it to himself, right? It's like cognitive dissonance almost. He's in denial over this fact, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. What I do want to talk about here today is this segment he recently did talking about the Trump dance, right? This one going viral in the NFL and the UFC because the NFL actually had to issue a statement about it. And in total fairness, the NFL did say it's free speech. We're going to allow them to do the celebration. But Stephen A. actually made a great point, which is why should the NFL have to issue a statement, right? Like players support Trump. Players are doing the Trump dance. It's a total 180 from kneeling for the national anthem 8 years ago. But why should you even have to comment on that? And ultimately, like, that's woke in itself that the NFL had to publicly address it. And honestly, I thought he really spoke a lot of facts. He was pretty fair and honest in the segment. So we'll talk about it here today. I'll give you my thoughts. But first, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. And why should you subscribe? Because it ensures we can keep bringing you these videos. We're trying to get to 400K subs by the end of the year. Help us do that. Smash that red button. And with that said, here's what Stephen A. Smith had to say about the Trump dance going viral among NFL players.
The NFL says they have no issue with players doing the signature dance of President-elect Donald Trump during their on-field celebrations. Here's why I'm pissed off that the NFL had to even issue a statement about it. Because celebrations usually don't warrant that. So why was it necessary this time? You know why? Because we got a bunch of people still living with their heads in the cloud, acting like they get to protest every little damn thing. This is America. Donald Trump won the election, rather convincingly, I might add. Now, I didn't vote for him, but he won. And I have no problem accepting the fact that he won fair and square in romp-like fashion, I might add. They got a right to support who the hell they want without the league needing to send in a response. I didn't see a response from the UFC. You know why? Because Dana White wouldn't entertain it. He's going to support who he's going to support. He's not going to apologize for it, as most American citizens should feel free to do. And why am I ticked off? Because it was emblematic of the climate that we've been living in for years now, which is why I believe Donald Trump was really elected. Yeah, it was inflation. The border, that was an issue. But woke culture, cancel culture, oh, hell yes, that played a role. Where you got people...
See exactly what I mean, guys. See exactly what I mean. This is a man who, I honestly, you could say he's just trying to go with the current tide, right? The culture is becoming more pro-Trump. We'll talk about that later. But it sounds like a guy who's in the process of like waking up, but he's just, but I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for him. You keep on justifying, like, you know, the exact political culture that did get Trump elected. Now, you could say, okay, maybe he's just fair. Maybe he's more honest. I'm open to that as well. I'm just saying, something to consider. A lot of people listen to Stephen A. Smith. You go in the comment section of this video, it's all Trump supporters, and it's like, what's going on here? I don't know. Anyways.
Walking around wondering whether or not they're echoing the right pronoun, wondering whether or not that was going to cost them their job. Or being PC because, God forbid, your opinion is different than the average folk walking around in America. Lord knows what would happen to you. That's what America regressed to.
Again, like you could say he's going down the Bill Maher route. Maybe he, is just kind of calling the stuff out. Okay, fine, fair enough. I'm just making that observation that it sounds like every time you listen to Stephen A. Smith talk politics, he's defending Trump more than he's defending the Democrats, but claims he voted for okay, it is what it is. Ultimately, though, let's not ignore the substance. Stephen A. is absolutely right about this. The NFL shouldn't even have to issue a statement. But I do think at the same time, the fact that you're seeing the Trump dance become such a mainstream thing, and so many athletes out there are not even scared to hint or basically signal to the public that they support Trump. Look at Nick Bosa. Okay, he plays for what? The San Francisco 49ers? You got a 49ers player that is in that city? Doesn't even mind supporting Trump. It tells you a lot about how the culture has shifted. We'll talk more about that in a second. But first, I do want to play because it's very funny. In this segment, Stephen A. later goes on to absolutely trash Oprah Winfrey for charging Kamala Harris like $2.5 million to do that town hall. And it's just glorious. Like, it's amazing. Check it out.
Because did y'all see this report that Vice President Kamala Harris paid Oprah Winfrey's production company nearly $2.5 million for her support during the campaign? Why would that piss me off? Why? This is Oprah Winfrey we talk about. What the hell is your production company doing getting anything from the Harris campaign? This is the same Oprah Winfrey that has donated to Cory Booker's campaign in the past. Your production company took when you have a history spanning decades of giving, not taking. Is it possible that you were taken because you had to be sold on supporting Kamala Harris? Play that
based. See, Stephen A. Look, you know what is true. Okay, admit it to yourself. I'm just saying.
Sound for me again, please, to refresh everybody's memory. Play it again.
If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Then what the hell you need $2.5 million for your production company when you're worth billions? Take your time, I'll wait.
So
you
true.
See? Bullshit is bullshit.
Yeah, so there you have that. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second. But last thing I want to play, Stephen A. then proceeds to completely tear into MSNBC's Morning Joe Scarborough, and Mika for once again being totally insincere in their rhetoric about Donald Trump. And again, it's pretty glorious. Check it out.
I did not vote for Donald Trump. I am going to be fair to the 47th president of the United States. I'm simply saying I'm not going to be hypocritical. Morning Joe, do you remember some of the things they entertained about Donald Trump? Donald Trump wins the election and then they come on TV and they tell us that they've met with him at Mar-a-Lago. I appreciate that. But could you tell us whether or not you told him to his face that you thought he was a racist or that you apologized for calling him that?
Brutal, just brutal. And what you see here in Stephen A. Smith is a man who, again, there's things I disagree with him on, but in this segment, he's completely on point. He's calling out the BS, okay? Yes, from the NFL's perspective, why did you even have to issue a statement on the Donald Trump dance when you don't issue a statement on all the other celebrations that people do in the NFL? Like, it's not a big deal, right? Why is that? Because of still implicitly on some level caving to the woke culture. In terms of Oprah Winfrey, if you really thought this was the most important election ever and we might not get to vote again, why did you need $2.5 million to go out and say that, right? And yes, in the case of Morning Joe, you said the guy was Hitler, and then all of a sudden, we're going to meet and have a civil discussion with him. So yeah, it's very true. The point, though, I want to close this video on really does not have a lot to do with Stephen A. Smith, but I look at that opening story about the Trump dance and the fact that players in the NFL now are just doing it publicly and openly, and it really does demonstrate in many ways how conservatives have become the counterculture. And this has been a Republican talking point, don't get me wrong, for many years now. Like how many figures in the Republican Party and the conservative movement have been saying since basically Trump won the election that, oh, being conservative is the counterculture. But I think in 2024 is finally the time that it became true. And this is a point I think a lot of people are missing about the election of Trump, is the fact that the Democrats lost the cool factor. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in many ways, you could argue that supporting Trump this time around, and this is what was different from 2016 or 2020, was actually the cool, almost trendy and hip thing to do. And that is a polar opposite of the way our politics have been essentially since Barack Obama. And you can even argue before that with Green Day and that stuff, back in the early 2000s, kind of as an implicit rebellion against George Bush and kind of evangelical neoconservatism, I guess you could call it, right? Which is now suddenly the culture is on our side. Like, we have the culture, and you may argue, oh, but Vince, Kamala Harris still had all of these celebrity endorsements. Yeah, but pay attention closer to which celebrities actually endorse Kamala. Do you guys notice this? First of all, they had to be paid to do it. But secondly, notice how it seemed like it was all celebrities who were very influential and popular back in like 2013. Right? Oprah Winfrey, Eminem, people like this. In other words, they're washed. Right? It was all the washed up older celebrities who were behind Kamala Harris. Whereas when you look at a lot of the rising tides, right, the people who are young and on the come up, especially YouTubers, especially social media influencers, people that my generation more so follows, they were almost unanimously on the side of Donald Trump, right? See how that worked? It's like, no, I think on many, many levels, supporting Trump this time around was the cool thing to do, right? And if you don't believe me, if you think that's sort of just a talking point, again, conservatives are the counterculture. Well, you know how you know it's now actually the truth? Is look at the exit polls and the way that young people, Gen Z, people 18 to 24, 18 to 30, my age bracket, right, voted in this presidential election. You had young men in the battleground states, at least 18 to 30. Donald Trump won them outright. That is very unprecedented in modern times for a Republican candidate to be winning the young male vote directly. Like, no contest, you just won it. Forget the margins, you won. And even amongst young women, who it was long speculated, oh, the young female vote's gonna swing really hard for Kamala Harris. Well, Kamala did still win them, but she actually did 11 points worse than Joe Biden did in 2020. So Donald Trump did historically well with the young people. That's how you know the counterculture, the cool factor, you could say, the trendiness that was for a very long time in the Democrat camp is now on our side. It is now, I won't even call it on the Republican side or the conservative side, but it's with MAGA, right? Being MAGA now in the culture is the cool thing to do. And again, that just shows you so much. And again, the fact that like the sports players are just doing it openly, the Trump dance has become like a worldwide TikTok trend, a trend in live TV. That tells you so much. Okay, and it really does have to give you hope for the future that the kids are all right. And yeah, the youth rebellion is no longer a rebellion against the Republican moral majority of old. It's a rebellion against the Democrats. It's a rebellion against sort of the liberal system, the liberal culture that we've had for a very long time. And I think even you take a look at a figure like Stephen A. Smith, who, a long time ago, he was just a total Democrat. Now he's becoming independent. Whether or not he fully goes over to support Trump, what does that tell you, right? That figures in the culture that used to be diehard Democrats are now sort of in the middle. What is that a signal of? The culture is shifting right. Okay, it's shifting in the other direction. Again, has to give you a lot of optimism, frankly, for the future. But with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of Stephen A. Smith's segment? What do you think of, again, the counterculture becoming MAGA and pro-Trump? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.